My name is Margaret Allen. I'm 62, and tonight I'm supposed to be celebrating the sale of the bakery chain that took me 3 decades and a marriage to build. The chandelier throws warm, honeyed light across the white linen, and my son Michael is teasing me about finally sleeping past 4. He reaches for my hand, and I squeeze back because that boy is the best thing I ever made. Clara, his wife, smiles the way a camera asks you to smile, not the way joy asks you to. She orders orange juice for me, fresh squeezed. Mom, you'll love it. Because she says I shouldn't mix champagne with my blood pressure pills. I let the glass sit, beads of condensation slipping down like slow rain. A man in a navy blazer steps to my shoulder. He's the restaurant's head of security, broad-shouldered olive skin, a name tag that reads Ethan. He bends close, as if he's pointing out a smear on my sleeve, and says in a voice he barely breathes, "Ma'am, I saw her slip something into your glass." I don't turn my head. My heart hits the brake and then the gas, and I have to remember to breathe so I don't gasp like a fool. The glass is inches from my wrist. Clara is laughing at something the waiter says as he sets down oysters and a hot plate of Parker House rolls that smell like my first bakery at dawn. I pick up the orange juice, and I let it fall. The glass shatters loud enough to flip every head within 10 feet. Orange spills across linen, a bright wound spreading toward the edge. I push my chair back with an apology on my lips and a tremble in my knees. The waiter jumps. Clara shoots me a look that's all concern and just a trace of annoyance, as if I've rained on her white dress on purpose. Michael stands, napkin in hand, ready to blot me dry like he's 6 again, and I've spilled cocoa on the sofa. "I'm fine," I say, because I am, because I will be, because I have to be. I dab at the mess, then press the napkin into a clean, folded linen the busboy brings and keep my hands moving while my eyes find Ethan's. He doesn't stare. He only nods toward the back, a private room beyond the wine wall, as if we've had a plan all along. "I'll freshen up," I tell them, grabbing the napkin parcel with a grimace worthy of a clumsy grandmother. Michael offers to come, but I shoo him with a kiss to his cheek and the promise of bread pudding. Clara insists on ordering me a new juice. I decline. I say I want water. I say the champagne can wait. I say a lot of things that sound motherly and small. In the corridor, the noise thins to forks and faraway laughter. Ethan waits by a service door, and when it swings shut behind us, the kitchen air hits me, butter and garlic and the iron heat of skillets. He keeps his voice level. I saw the young woman tilt a vial. I couldn't tell what. I unwrap the napkin parcel. The smear of orange looks harmless as sunrise. "I'm not crazy," I say. It's not a question, but he answers anyway. "No, ma'am." His steadiness lets me be steady. I ask for a plastic evidence bag, which is not a thing a restaurant normally has. But good places keep gloves and zipper bags for things guests leave behind. Earrings, baby teeth, sometimes dignity. He brings 2. I slide the soaked linen into one, seal it, and ask him to initial the seam. He does. I initial it too, and write the time from the kitchen clock in my careful bakery owner script. We bag the shard of glass with the remaining juice and seal that too. "You'll want a lab," he says. I will. I don't explain that once. A lifetime ago in a different city. My husband's cardiologist told me about digitalis and how it could be salvation or a knife. I don't say the word now, not until it has earned its place. I wash my hands and look in the mirror. Flour left lines in my fingerprints for years. Today the lines are just mine. In the reflection, my eyes give me permission to be furious later. Right now, I have to be precise. Back at the table, the mess is gone. A new cloth has been laid as if nothing bad can stain what wealth can replace. Michael notices the water in my hand and raises his glass. To the woman who taught me the difference between patience and procrastination. Clara laughs, and the pearls at her throat lift and fall. To Mom, she says. To a legacy that's finally going to let you rest. I say thank you, and I mean it, in that narrow way gratitude can survive beside suspicion. The oysters are cold and perfect. The Parker House roll tears with steam like prayer. A waiter sets down a tiny bottle of hot sauce and asks, "Anything else for you folks?" I pay attention to names now. His is Luis, and to hands. Clara's fingernails are immaculate. Michael squeezes lemon with the smallest grimace. Between courses. I excuse myself to take a call I don't have. In the hallway, I text a number I keep as carefully as I keep my pension papers. Detective Laura Pierce answers with one word, "Where?" I tell her the address and that I'll meet her at the side entrance in 10 minutes. "Bring a cooler," I add. She doesn't ask why. She never does. When I return, dessert menus have appeared with the stealth of guilt. Clara circles creme brulee with her fingertip. "You always love this," she says, and for a moment I see the girl who used to show up at my bakery and ask about yeast with earnest questions that made me believe she loved my son for the right reasons. I did. I answer. I do. I wave to the waiter and ask for the check. It is not a small number. I put my card down because that's what mothers do when the night has a shape and you want it to end with grace. The manager arrives to thank me for my years in the neighborhood. He doesn't know I was thinking of leaving the city. He doesn't know what else I'm leaving. At the curb. The valet brings our car. Michael offers to drive me home. I say I'll ride with them and call a car back later. Clara says, "Good. We'll tuck you in early." She laughs as if that's caring. Ethan catches my eye from the doorway and nods once in a way that means, "I saw what I saw." I nod back to say, "I did what I had to." We glide into the evening, all leather and soft radio and the hum of a city that forgives everything except weakness. I grip my purse with the sealed bag inside, and I press my palm to it the way I used to press dough, firm, steady, shaping something that will rise if I just wait. Laura meets me behind a pharmacy 3 blocks from my house because she likes cameras that belong to the public and a parking lot lit like high noon. She used to wear a badge. Now she wears a navy windbreaker and the kind of shoes that know every back stair in the city. I hand her the sealed bag and the shard of glass. She puts them into a small cooler lined with ice packs and says she'll courier it to a private lab she trusts, the kind that can rush liquid chromatography mass spectrometry and still sleep at night. "What am I looking for?" she asks. "Something that doesn't belong in orange juice," I tell her. I don't say the other word. I'm not ready to let it breathe. She studies my face like it's a crime scene. "You're steady," she says. "Good." Then, softer. "Do you want me to send a patrol car to sit outside your house?" "I want you to find the truth," I answer. It's the only thing I've ever wanted. In ovens and marriages and bank statements. When I go back inside, the house smells like vanilla and lemon oil. The sale flowers people sent crowd the dining room, petals heavy and sweet, like praise that comes late. I boil water for tea. I won't drink and walk the rooms the way a mother checks on sleeping children. In the guest room, the Afghan my mother crocheted is folded like a verdict. In the office, the last ledger from the last bakery sits under a brass paperweight shaped like a wheat stalk. I lift it and put it down again because I need the ritual. My phone buzzes with a message from Clara. "So proud of you, Mom. Michael and I are lucky to have you." A second bubble appears before I can answer. "Don't forget your 9 with the financial planner. We'll come by to go over the trust. It would have been so easy to be tired and say yes to everything someone younger and quicker offered to handle. I type, "See you at 11. I delete it. I type, "I'll reschedule." I delete that too. Finally, I send. "I'll be in touch after I rest." I don't sleep. The night crafts knives from shadows. Around 2, when the city goes from loud to honest, I stand at the kitchen sink and wash a single plate because doing something that ends helps. There's a color to fear, thin and metallic, and I know it from the morning the EMTs took my husband away, and I stood there holding a towel I kept folding because it was the only thing in the room I could control. At 8, Laura calls. "Preliminary screen flags cardiac glycosides," she says. "We'll have confirmatory analysis by tomorrow, but the quick test isn't lying. Digitalis is a flower if you don't crush it. It's a medicine if you measure it with love. It's a killer if you slip it into juice." I don't say any of that. I say, "Thank you." And I sit down as if the chair has been appointed by a judge. "Do you want me to loop in the detectives I still like?" she asks. "I want you to follow the money first." My voice surprises me. It sounds like the woman who used to negotiate flower contracts and kick out customers who shouted at teenage cashiers. Laura laughs once. "Already on it." The day moves like glue. At 11, Michael texts a string of emojis that look like a scavenger hunt for someone else's mother. At noon, Clara sends a photo of a handbag with the caption, "Treat yourself." By 2, Laura is back with paper that smells like toner and bad decisions, casino statements, cash advance receipts, the picture of Clara at a private room in Atlantic City taken by a camera that never sleeps. "She's in for $4 million to a network with one polite face," Laura says, tapping a printout with the name Henry Caldwell. "Professor teaches strategy to kids who think strategy is an app. He also lends money to people who like to forget interest compounds." I put a palm flat on the table to stop it from floating. "He taught at Michael's business program," I say. It's not a question. It's a memory. Sun-faded and missing pieces that suddenly slide into place. "Your daughter-in-law's text history with him isn't all loans," Laura adds, and waits for me to nod. He's telling her to simplify the problem. His words, simplify the problem, remove the obstacle, inherit and invest. It isn't the worst sentence I've heard in my life, but it's the one that makes me coldest. We go to the police together, not because I'm afraid to go alone, but because people listen to Laura faster. The detective on duty is polite in the way men are when their mothers taught them the right way to be. He takes the report. He logs the chain of custody. He doesn't roll his eyes when I say orange juice like a weapon. He asks if I want a protective order. I say not yet. I say we're not done. On the way home, I stop by the bakery I refuse to let the new owners rename. The young manager wipes his hands on his apron and hugs me the way a boy hugs a grandma he doesn't share blood with. I buy a loaf of sourdough I won't slice and a box of cinnamon rolls for the neighbors. When he turns away to help someone else, I breathe in the warm, yeasty air and think about the trust papers waiting like a trap baited with kindness. My phone buzzes again. "Clara, dinner tonight? We'll bring takeout? Don't cook. Rest." I text back, "Tomorrow. Tonight I have plans." I do. I plan to sit in my living room with the lights low and listen to my own heartbeat and decide that love does not blind me, it sharpens me. And if the next day brings a lab report, I will read it with the same attention I gave every recipe I ever wrote. Because measurements matter, and so does intention. The lab report arrived in my inbox just after 10 the next morning. The email was brief, clinical, impossible to misread. Confirmed presence of digoxin. Concentration consistent with deliberate administration. No more guessing. No more space for hope. Suspicion had become evidence. And evidence had become the kind of truth that breaks walls down. I called Michael and asked him to meet me at the precinct. He showed up with a fresh shave that cut too close, red patches along his jawline, and a tie he had knotted wrong. He looked like a boy trying to appear older, the same way he had the night of his senior prom when he begged me to fix his boutonniere. His eyes flicked around the lobby, nervous, unprepared for what waited upstairs. When we sat down together, I handed him the summary page. He read quickly at first, like a man scanning for words that would clear the person he loved. His eyes slowed as they reached the second paragraph. By the third, his lips had parted, but no sound came. He looked at me with disbelief written plain across his face. "This can't be Clara," he said finally, his voice more plea than statement. "I wanted to believe that too," I told him, "but we have to look at what's here." Laura slid a folder across the table. Inside were transcripts of text messages, casino slips, photographs that didn't lie. Michael pressed his thumb against one printout like he could smudge it out of existence. The words stared back. Simplify the problem. Remove the obstacle. Inherit and invest. He whispered the phrase aloud, as though tasting it might change its flavor. Then he dropped the page, rubbing his temples. She listened to me. She asked about my work. She wanted to know everything. "Predators listen," Laura said, not cruelly but firmly, the way a teacher reminds a student that the lesson was always on the board. Before the silence could bury us, a detective entered the room. "We've got eyes on your daughter-in-law at Shoreline Casino. Do you want us to bring her in for questioning?" I nodded without hesitation. Michael nodded a moment later, his agreement lagging like an echo. 3 hours passed before they escorted Clara into the interrogation room. I watched from behind one-way glass. She looked different without the soft lighting and polished pearls, her posture stiff, her skin pale under fluorescent bulbs. She asked for water. She asked for Michael. She never once asked for me. At first, she denied everything. Her voice was smooth, calm, the same voice she had used to sell me on new financial planners and vacation ideas. Then she pivoted, saying she only wanted to protect me, that she worried about my heart. Her tone cracked when Laura slid the text messages across the table. The silence that followed pressed her shoulders down. Finally, Clara broke. "Henry said it was safe." She stammered. "Just a scare, that's all. He said once she rested, once she slowed down, we'd all make better decisions." She looked up, eyes glassy. I didn't want to hurt her. He said it would be quick. He said, "The microphones caught every word. The charges followed immediately: attempted murder, conspiracy. They removed her necklace, her phone, her shoestrings. Every small thing she had once used to polish her image was stripped away in minutes." Michael pressed his forehead against the glass until fog formed where his breath struck. "I thought if I loved her enough." His voice fell apart. "You don't need to finish that sentence," I told him. My voice was steady, though my chest ached with the weight of his grief. Later that evening, police raided Caldwell's townhouse. He was calm, almost amused, wearing slippers and a sport coat as he deleted files on his laptop. He requested a lawyer with the arrogance of tenure, as if the world owed him understanding. Agents carried out 2 phones, 3 ledgers, and the laptop itself, its hard drive glowing with secrets he believed were safe. Laura shook her head. "Strategy isn't cruelty," she muttered. "He never learned the difference." When I returned home, the silence of the house felt like a punishment and a gift all at once. Michael sat at the kitchen table where he had once asked me if yeast was alive. A cinnamon roll sat untouched before him, the frosting beginning to set. His eyes were swollen, but he lifted them to mine. "I owe you an apology," he whispered, "for doubting, for thinking you were jealous of her. You don't owe me words, I said softly. You owe me help. Help to build something good out of what's been broken. He blinked, then nodded slowly. What do you want to build? A fund, I answered. For bakers who can't afford ovens. For apprentices who just need one chance to prove themselves. Michael released a long, shaky breath. Then that's what we'll do. And for the first time since the glass shattered on the restaurant floor, I felt the air in my lungs loosen, as if the future had finally opened its door. Court was nothing like television. There were no sudden outbursts that resolved neatly, no monologues that made jurors weep. It was paper and waiting. Questions asked in the same tone whether they carried life or death. For weeks I sat in benches worn smooth by other families, clutching a thermos of coffee that always went cold before noon. Clara pleaded not guilty. Caldwell acted insulted, as if the world had misunderstood his brilliance. The defense tried to paint the poison as an accident or a misunderstanding of dosage. But evidence is stubborn. The texts were read aloud. Simplify the problem, remove the obstacle, inherit and invest. The words echoed in the room like stones dropped into water. The lab technician spoke with calm certainty, explaining how the napkin had been sealed, how the glass shard had been bagged, how the LCMSMS confirmed cardiac glycosides in concentrations that could not be mistaken. The defense asked if orange juice could naturally ferment to create such a reading. The technician shook his head. No, sir, not ever, Michael testified, his voice steady until it cracked on the words, my wife. He looked at Clara once. She dropped her gaze to the table, unable to hold the eyes she once claimed to love. Caldwell barely looked at either of them, his attention fixed on the ceiling as though the proceedings were beneath him. The verdict was no surprise. Guilty of attempted murder, guilty of conspiracy. Sentences that stretched across decades, long enough to erase whole chapters of life. I did not cheer. Justice rarely feels triumphant. It feels steady, like stone underfoot after days of mud. Outside the courtroom, Michael sat beside me on a bench too short for both our knees. He asked, "Do you ever stop feeling angry?" "You don't let anger drive," I told him. "You keep it in the trunk. You decide where the car goes." The Allen Foundation began on a Wednesday, because beginnings should feel like ordinary days. Our first grant went to a young couple baking bread in a church basement. When I handed them the check, the woman's hands shook. "We'll pay you back," she said. "No," I told her. "You'll pay it forward." At home, the flowers had long wilted. The house smelled of lemon oil and quiet resolve. In a safe, I kept the evidence bag, not because I needed proof anymore, but because memory is slippery. And I wanted a reminder, even in fear. I had chosen precision over panic. Some mornings, I walk past a bakery with its back door propped open, warm air rushing out. I breathe it in and think of all the mornings still ahead. The bitter did not win. The sweet survived. Wiser. Michael visits often, carrying boxes as he moves into a smaller apartment. We eat takeout on the floor, talk about ovens, budgets, the hard work of telling the truth without cruelty. When he leaves, he kisses my head like I'm the one who needs blessing. And maybe I am. At night, I write letters to young bakers. I tell them dreams are like bread, water, flour, time, and attention. I tell them to measure carefully, but not fearfully. And I remind them that even when something shatters, you can decide what rises next. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these family drama and revenge stories, please subscribe and join me for more every day